already number one realtor.
Yes.
We try different wines.
What's your favorite wine? Red or white? Hold on, first. Okay, all right.
I'm sophisticated.
I think a part of me was just like, y'all, we've been great. You're just now figuring it out, but we've been great. That's who we are. It's in our DNA.
To like be my colossal Deadpool, like impersonation, 1 or 2 moments, right? It's.
And I'm sitting there in my head going, I wonder if I can somehow sniff the traffic going from the armband. It's got to be talking to an API or something.
To the next cocktail, to the next conversation.
3. Can you guys believe it? We made it to season 3. It's been going spectacular, if I do say so myself. And of course, as you guys know, we have another special guest because all my guests on this podcast are special. And so I am very pleased to introduce all of you to the most amazing number 1 realtor in the Atlanta metro area.
Thank you.
Because she won't say it, so I got to say it for her.
No, I'm saying that. The best realtor. That's right.
Miss Shana Baylis, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So we're going to jump right into it. And for those of you, Cocktails Cone Conversation, I know we haven't had cocktails in a while. Look, it's 1 o'clock. Don't get it twisted.
It's after 12, though.
It is after 12, though. I thought about it. Don't get it twisted. I thought about having some, but we gonna chill. So jump in straight into it, and the realty thing. Talk to me a little bit about like how you decided to get started in realty.
In real estate, it's so funny. I love helping people, so that's like really what started me into real estate is my desire to always want to help someone achieve a goal. But I could say really when I was younger, my father was building a house. When I saw him build his house and saw the kind of house and all the features he was able to choose from, and then just someone able to assist him and his wife at the time in that process, that's when I can say I really was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was like a career. I didn't know people could do this. And I had that little bug about real estate when I was like, I think it was like 13.
Okay.
When he built his house up. And so after I went to school and I was working in property management, and I just really loved helping people, even just, get into a home. And I was like, I need to get my license. So I just always, like I said, I love being a part of the process of helping someone achieve a goal. And so what bigger goal is there than owning your own property, building wealth for your family, building a foundation for your family's future. So for me, that's really where it started, was just those little experiences that I had in my life. But the heart of it is I have a heart for helping others and helping people achieve a goal, and just being part of that process and seeing them do the work and achieve the goal that they intended to achieve. It's like priceless to me.
Right.
But I'll take the funds that come with it. So that's truly how I got started in real estate, where it came from, my desire for real estate.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's dope. I didn't even know that part. So learn something new. What skills would you say have helped you? Like what skills kind of that you had naturally, and what are some that you had to learn, right, when you kind of really got into it?
So I think my desire to be of service and be helpful, because it helps have endurance and persistence in times where real estate can be difficult, and I'm not one to give up. I think me naturally being competitive is a great tool in real estate, because it's a very competitive market, and just dealing with other types of people. Not all people have the same character. So just understanding who you are, being self-aware of who I am, what I have to bring to the table. I'm naturally a person who loves to talk, loves to interact with people. I love meeting new people. So if you need that in any type of entrepreneurial road, you have to be able to connect with new people daily. So I think that natural ability that I have to connect with people, to meet new people, to not shy away from people, is definitely something that's benefited my real estate career. But also my ability, in that same token, I had to learn to listen more. I like to take over a conversation. And it was so funny because people think real estate, they think sales, but really it is service. It's not sales. It's you being of service to someone else and providing value that they need. And so a lot of times people think sales is talking, trying to get somebody to buy something, but really it's listening.
Right.
And it is catering to what that person needs, not what you think they need, as well as you really trying to just be everything that person needs. So providing a great service. I love Chick-fil-A, and most of the people, they don't love Chick-fil-A sandwiches like that. They're not there for that. They're there for the service, because where else do you go at a fast food place where they make you feel like you at a 5-star restaurant? They act like they care. They just value your presence. And so them and other establishments has shown me over the time that how much being of service and customer care is really important. So really me being able to talk to anybody was a great asset. Me not being afraid of people, but also me understanding the difference between talking and building relationships. I had to get better at building relationships.
Okay.
And so that meant that I had to listen more than I talked. I had to be invested in their vision, not my own. And I had to deliver. And sometimes if you can't deliver something, you have to acknowledge that. So just being transparent, growing in your social skills, growing in my just my skill set of how to find property, negotiate contracts. I grew in those areas, but the foundation was my natural ability to connect with others.
Right.
So
Okay.
I felt that set me up probably a little bit better than some other people.
Okay.
When you get into real estate.
Now, I ain't speak. She ain't speak for me. I love me some Chick-fil-A sandwiches. I love me some Chick-fil-A lemonade. So
Well,
I'm going to Chick-fil-A. But the sandwich is
I
lemonade.
like Chick-fil-A, but I feel like people, they love, it's the combination, right?
Right.
Like, so, because you can get chick sandwich from KFC, from Popeyes. You know, Popeyes try to come in there and get Chick-fil-A. Then you realize how hard that game was. They ran out of sandwiches again, knowing your product and knowing your business and knowing your customer.
Right.
Because people didn't like that when they ran out of these sandwiches. Like, don't get me addicted and you ain't got no sandwiches. So Chick-fil-A is consistent.
Yes. That is true.
They have a certain standard that they're known for. So just I use them as an example of just a type of business, a longevity type of business that you could create, but it comes with service being first.
Yes, and I think it is a great example because look, they got everybody saying "my pleasure" now.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know if you noticed that. You go to any other place, it's like "my pleasure." I'm like, you ain't Chick-fil-A.
I know everywhere says that and then it's just now you feel like you should.
Right.
It should be my pleasure to serve you.
Right.
It should be I always say serve to succeed, because we should be looking to serve people. And also, if you realize, people a lot of times they get in this real estate business, they think, oh, I'm about to get money up. They focus on commission. I'm focused on the client, because if you focus on a client, that's not one commission. That's multiple commissions.
Right.
That's a lifetime of family commission. I just helped a client sell and buy their house. That was like my 6th transaction for that family. In 2.5, 3 years. So again, if you serve the people, the commission will come. But if you don't serve the people, you might get one commission. That'll be your last one. Okay. So I've learned that over time, and that service is first, and don't worry about the deal. Make sure that you're taking care of the client first.
Right.
Make sure that it's of their best interest to purchase this home. Even if they want it, don't sell them just anything because they just want a house. You know, make sure that you're taking care of your client, because they're going to appreciate that in the long run. So,
and that, that's interesting to hear that, that it's a strength even in, like real estate. So I've talked to a lot of people, like my background was in consulting and in software and cybersecurity leadership, and you always hear the same thing, right? Which I tell people is success, it'll leave clues, right? But it's the same thing everywhere. People who are focused on service, taking care of their customer. I couldn't stand sales. I used to hate sales, right? And I had a buddy of mine tell me, he was like, look, he was, I think you have the wrong perception. He was like, sales is just this. He's like, instead of I don't sell to anybody. I help people find what they're looking for.
Exactly.
He goes, that's all I do. So I sit down and ask him questions. He goes, well, what are you looking for? And then I give them information, and then I help them make decisions.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, the key thing is I help them make the decisions. I'm just
them.
there. He goes, and so what happens is, just like you just said, he would sell to one person, help them make that decision. He would go off to a different company. That person would go off to a different company, and the first person I call, I'm gonna call him up, right? Like, hey, like I'm trying to do this. Do you have any? And even if it was like, it would sometimes be things that he wasn't even selling, but he would call him because he's like, I need help making this decision. Do you know somebody, this, that, or whatever? And he's like, so therefore, like you said, if I focus on my clients and taking care of them, he goes, I'll never not have business, right? So it's those things that I think a lot of people miss when they look at things like, oh, like you said, you're going to real estate, focus on commission, all this stuff, whatever. It's everything else that you need to be there. It's being that service, and sometimes that's just, it's not just knowing like everything about a property, but like knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to listen, like active listening, right? That's one of the things I struggle with, like just listening, because it was like in my head, I'm like, okay, I know what the answer is. So I'm ready to give you the answer.
You're ready to respond.
Right.
You're waiting to respond.
And if I'm waiting to respond, I'm not listening.
Yes.
Right.
And also, sometimes you don't even have to sell anything. Most of the time, people, they know they want to work with you, or they like, so you overshare sometimes when you do that. And so sometimes you can talk yourself out of business. So I learned that too, unfortunately. But you have to just listen, like you said about your friend, that you're aware of what the client's needs are. And then I always say I educate, I advocate, and I negotiate on your behalf. So I educate you on the process. I educate you on the market if you're selling or you're investing. I educate you so that you can be empowered to make the best decision, because I want the decision making to be you, but I want you to be well informed. As well as I'm going to advocate for you. Advocate when I'm negotiating with the other agent. I'm going to advocate for you when I'm looking up the tax records, making sure everything is matching up to what they're saying this property is and what it's worth. I'm going to advocate for you when we're talking to attorneys and we're talking to other vendors that are going to help you throughout the process and the resources that we offer. For me, I have a full service team, so I want to make sure that everybody's providing value so that when my client goes through the process, they have a good experience. And then I love to negotiate. I love to win. So I love to negotiate and win multiple offers, get people to cancel open houses because we get the house. So for me, that's a big part of it. I'm competitive by nature. But I love calling my clients and letting them know that in multiple offer situation, they won. And they didn't win because we just gave away all of our contingencies or all our rights. I don't do that. I truly advocate and protect my clients. So I believe in making strategic offers, but I don't believe in making offers that's going to kind of not protect them and they have a lot of liability in them. Right. So I just think that, like you said, listening, being aware of the client's needs and wants, and helping to educate them throughout the process so that they can be empowered to make the best decision for their future. Because this is really about them. It has nothing to do with me. I'm here to guide you and educate you and, help them make a seamless, stressless as possible transaction. Right.
So I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So on the negotiation tactic, right? That's something that, you love to compete, you like to win. She is very good at. Personal experience, I can tell you she's very good at. So like, if there's somebody listening or watching right now and they're like, man, I want to get into this, and they're just like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, what are some tips you would give somebody like for starting to negotiate? Like learning how to negotiate, learning, what are some kind of trade secrets that they can kind of take away?
Always try to come from a place of contribution to the other side. You want us to be a so you're not coming to take out their jugular or step on their neck. You're here to help them be successful in supporting their client, and you're here to help your client be successful. So that's the idea, is to have the perception of this is a win-win transaction for both sides. I'm a great person to co-op with. I'm going to help make this transaction as smooth and as stress-free for your side as well as mine. I'm going to do the work in advance and make sure my buyer is pre-qualified and has have the lender call the agent. That's one of my tips that a lot of agents don't even have their lender reach out to the other side to show that their buyer is secure and sufficient and ready to, they're able to close with them. I close, knock on wood, 100% of the people that I get under contract, it has never fell through due to financing. That's a big deal to tell somebody.
Right.
Because I make sure if you're approved, that you can close. Now, if you have to change your mind about the property because the property is not good enough to close on, that's different. But it won't be due to my buyer not being qualified because of my lender. Again, that's who you're in business with matters. That's another big tip. Having good people in your team, on your team, I should say. So your lenders, your vendors, if you're in real estate, would be your inspection companies, your home warranty companies, your attorneys. Like I can call my attorney up right now and she will pick up the phone for me and she will say, I'm like, hey, Lindsay, I need help. I got a probate question. I got a question where somebody owns part of this property, but they live out of state. How do we do a quick claim deed? I can get that information quickly. And that again goes back to building relationships with people. So you need to make sure that to negotiate effectively, you need to have the team behind you and you need to connect with people. Connect where you are though. You don't have to connect with people that you see online or you think they're these big people. There's plenty of talented people right next to you. You have to talk to people and you have to connect with people. So if you're a realtor, if you get into real estate, biggest thing is connect with lenders, good lenders who have great closing rates. Ask them how many percentage of the buyers that they've approved do they actually close. Closing attorneys, good closing attorneys that have great experiences, that have a unique experience. So your buyer goes away saying, oh my God, this closing was amazing. Let me tell you, you want to close at this office. So you want to create an experience for your client, you want to educate your client, and you want to make sure that you empower your client. So that's what I would focus on if I was getting into real estate.
Okay.
That sounded good. I should write that down.
You probably should. It's okay. We'll go back. We'll go back. We're gonna drop a blog on it.
Okay.
We'll go back and get the transcript. So, one of the things about real estate that I think sometimes people kind of overestimate, right? Like there's a lot involved, right? I mean, it's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts. You're talking to different people. You're showing houses. You're going off, whatever. So it's a lot to juggle, right? So talk to me like how you either a challenge that you had like juggling like as your real estate career started to take off, and then being a parent, being a wife, right? Like in a family, like there's a lot that goes into it. I think people again, right? Like we're in this point in time where everybody got a reality show and all this stuff, whatever. So they see like oh look, such and such flipping houses, and they see the big house and all this stuff, whatever. They don't understand like it's a whole lot happening behind there. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I would say it is so much behind it. I know when in real estate, especially when my real estate really started picking up, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not sustainable. I can't keep doing it like this. I just because I'm an active parent, I'm an active wife, I got an active life, all that good stuff, and an active business. So just making sure but I'm a control freak. So I had to come to Jesus moment, and God was like, ma'am, you're going to have anxiety attack. You're going to have something if you don't get some help. And so delegating things that, first of all, I don't even like doing. Like, I love people. I love looking at houses. I love listing houses. I do not like paperwork. I hate paperwork. And that's why I used to procrastinate and get my paperwork in a little bit later than I should, trying to make sure I got all my coins at the closing table, even though I'm late with my paperwork. So I got me a transaction coordinator who's great. She handles all of my contracts. Once I get a house under contract, I just send it right to her, honey, and we good to go. She takes care of everything. And then after that, I have buyer's agents that support me. So like now I don't have to be going to show every single property. I have some buyer's agents and some showing agents in different parts of the city, different cities in Atlanta area. And so they help me where I don't have to travel an hour outside where I live. I can just call somebody, pay them $50 or $100 to open a door. And then if the client likes it, I work on the part that really, really matters, which is negotiating and getting them under contract. I did that multiple times last year, and I was like, oh, I should have been doing this all my life. But just being able to show houses that I never had to walk into the door. Like I've sold a couple of houses recently that I never saw, which was kind of amazing that you can do that, but delegating the parts that you don't have to do, so you can use your expertise at what you're great at. So me negotiating is what I'm really good at. So I stick to that. I stick to making sure my client has a great experience and just making sure that the process is seamless and that they know what to expect. So if I focus on that, I can delegate the smaller parts of the parts that I'm not the best at to people who are really great. I have a great buyer's agent / our organization operations manager, and she does a great job. She's great at admin work. She loves writing, and so I let her write everything. Even if I write it, she rewrites it. So she's great at that. That's and this just utilizing people who have great skill sets around you. And sometimes I think when we first get into the business and you start making money, you're like, oh, I want to keep it all to myself.
Right.
I don't want to share. And the truth is, you make more money by sharing the wealth as well as empowering others,
right,
because then they go out and they add more money to the business.
Right.
So just learning that cycle of to make money and take money, to you got to invest in yourself and your team, as well as with just the balance, which ain't no such thing, but I always say it's like harmony, like create some type of harmony in your home with your spouse. Set expectations, set expectations between you and your spouse. Communicate. So for me, I'm married. I've been married for 14 years, and my husband is very supportive of my career, and so are my kids. I mean, sometimes I've taken them with me to show homes because I'm a working mama, so they got to see why I'm gone so long, and so they appreciate why we can go on vacation and things like that. So just sharing my business with my family, I can involve them. I do market updates with my youngest one online sometimes, and she's so interested now. She want to be a realtor. But so like just making them feel connected to me, so it doesn't like I'm just leaving the home all the time. And then also making sure that you just still make time for that family, where my husband's like, okay, every third weekend, you need to make sure somebody's doing everything else because I need you that weekend. And so he just makes it clear in advance so that we keep that time for ourselves, and he can still feel like he has his wife when he needs his wife. So I think that's, and like I said, utilize people that are there to help support you and help you delegate the things that you might not be the best at, because you tire yourself out, you wear yourself out trying to do everything. And I did that for a while, and I was excited to be in the business and making money, but then I was so drained I couldn't be like actively present in my personal life, and I was tired, and I'm like, oh no, this ain't sustainable, so let me get some help. And I think it's just you need to know that to grow you need a team. There is like, you're not going to get to where you think you want to go with just one person. It's a team involved. So just really finding a real good team, I think that's the hardest part. But if you have that, then you can really, sky's the limit. So that's how I do it.
That's good advice. I was just having this conversation like last week about like, learning how to delegate, learning what your strengths are, and moving your focus to that, right? I had a similar experience when I started my company years ago, and it was like, again, I was like, sales, marketing, blah, 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 whatever. I was like, I got this, just take this, I know everything, I don't need anybody else, right? And I went absolutely nowhere, right? But because I learned how hard it was to do all those other things, right? So you're trying to, do the things you do best, and then all these other things that you just gotta learn, or you don't like, or you're not really good at. So what happens? You do them, you get them done, but it's like maybe half-ass or like, and you start to, you start to realize like, okay, I need somebody to come in and do this. I need somebody to come in and do that, right? And you start to see that, I remember the quote, and I'm gonna mess it up, so I ain't gonna try and do it. But basically, it's like you realize that you can go faster by yourself, but you can do more when you have a team. And I think for people sometimes who are, whatever you want to call them, A personalities, do all the Myers-Briggs stuff, whatever, but people who are just, we call them go-getters or go after stuff. They like, look, I'm good, I got this, don't worry about it, right? Those are the ones that struggle the most, like, because it's like, you have to realize, okay, this might not be going as fast as you could do it. Maybe you could do it better, but you can't sustain it. Like, you can't always do it. So now you have to learn how to let somebody else come in, teach if you need to. But now it's like, even though you're going slower, but hey, now we're getting 5 things done at a time versus you trying to burn through the cycles and just going through, right? I think that's
you creating systems. Creating systems to be able to scale your business, because that's the biggest thing. Because I don't want to do what I'm doing right now forever. I want to be able to scale and systematize so I can sell the business and get a ROI on what I have built. So that's what you want to do. So for me, you can only scale with multiple people. You can only scale with systems. You can't be the best at everything. So you need to know what you are good at, focus on your strengths, and then delegate everything else. And that's what helped me create sanity in my life, because I was trying to do it all as a wife, as a mom, I have 4 small kids. It was just getting to be too much, and I love to act like I'm Superwoman, but I do not have a power, and so I had to realize that was not me, and I don't want to be her. I want to be a person that can have time to themselves, gentle, don't have to be on 24/7, create boundaries with people. So again, it's just really creating that team, that support system for yourself within your home as well as within your business, so that you can have just a good, peaceful, prosperous life. That's really the point.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Shana? So we've got where we are now. So you're already number 1 realtor in Atlanta.
Yes.
What's next for you? Where do you want to take this?
So where I want to take this is I'm growing my team. I do have a team now, and so I want to grow into a $1 million team, so that I'm producing 6-figure agents. I want to make sure that I'm not just the only top agent on my team. I want to produce people who can fish, not just eat. So that is the goal. And then the ultimate goal is to have my own brokerage, Baylis Real Estate. And so that is the path that I'm headed towards in the next 5 years. And so I'm excited about it. I know it's possible. It's already done, like my tattoos say. That's my mantra. And I'm just excited because I really feel like what I want, I can see it. It's like I can see it in the far distance. That tunnel light is getting bigger.
Right.
So it's really cool to really feel like that. And I'm just excited to be of service. And I see where I could serve people in a different capacity that maybe is not being done right now in our industry, in our market. And so I want to be that person who kind of fills that gap. I also want to expand and doing some another book. And doing a book for buyers and sellers, just educating them on the path of purchasing a home as well as selling a home, and really just creating wealth through real estate, because it's really the pathway that America really was built, was through real estate wealth. And so just educating people how they can do that using just traditional homes, single family homes or duplexes, things like that, just educating them on at a younger age too. Just I want to get out there and talk to like high schools and colleges and really educate people, especially young African American people, about the power of credit, the power of real estate to change your family's life, like change your legacy, break generational curses. Like it's really powerful if you do it right and if you have the knowledge. I think for our community, we could do anything. Obviously, we've seen people use everything that we have, use us up, you know, in a certain way. And I feel like it's just the only thing that was missing for us is just knowledge.
Right.
We just weren't aware. A lot of times when I get first-time home buyers, they have the money. Most of them even have the credit. They literally are just renting because they don't know any better.
Right.
And it's just like, and then when they get done, they're like, what? That was it? I've been like waiting to buy a house for 10 years and that was all it took. And so it's just the not being aware of what you need to know, and also taking action, encouraging people to take the action they need to get prepared, because a lot of times we get the idea of we want something and then if it doesn't happen immediately, we give up. And just showing people that you want to have patience and you have to have preparation.
Right.
Like things don't happen overnight. You have to prepare for what you want. I think a lot of times we want instant gratification, and real estate is one of those things you can't do that. You have to prepare for it, or you have to prepare for it while you're in it, in the process of it, and it can take longer. So just educating people, empowering people, and really creating like a legacy for my family. That's what's next for me.
Okay. All right. I want to go back just a little bit because you did touch on something that I want us to talk about. So like when it comes to, you know, African Americans, right, in home buying, right, there has been, and even to this day, and I can't remember the article, you guys can go Google it, but there was a couple, right, trying to sell their house, and it's still like you know, I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it because they think it exists, but the fact of the matter is, like, racism's still alive,
No,
right?
very well.
Like, this couple basically had to have their white friends pose as them in order to sell the house because it wouldn't sell, right? So, in your experience, right, have you still seen some of that? And then the second question is, with these last couple of years, right, so obviously, you know, with the pandemic, like a lot of things happened. The housing market went crazy. How much did you see like African Americans jumping into like the home buying? Did you see that as a boost, like just personally for what you saw, for more of us kind of buying purchases? And then what do you think that's going to do going forward?
So
I threw a lot of questions.
So yes,
Sorry.
no. The first question regarding the appraisal of properties, because what happened was that was true. The parties, they put, I think, $100,000 worth of equity into their home. They got it reappraised, and the appraiser came out and just didn't appraise it for much, they just couldn't believe it. And it wasn't until their friend came to stand in for them that they got the correct appraisal. And unfortunately, that is still real. Real estate has been racist, to be honest, since the creation. They redlined us. They didn't allow us to purchase homes. They increased rates on us just based off of race and nothing else. And so, unfortunately, you can still see it with far as like certain appraisals. I do tell my clients when we're about to have the house appraised, take down all your photographs. Like, I don't want anything or anybody to have any biased opinion towards the home, because that's what they're buying. They're not buying your pictures. They're not buying your style. They're not buying your design. They're buying the house. So let's have them focus on the home. So let's take down, and unfortunately, I'm sure if they're not African American or minority, they don't probably get told that. And so it is what it is. So I just let my clients know it's totally up to you if you don't want to, but I would suggest it. And there's obviously things that have happened that support why we suggest things like that. And then far as the appraisal being something that people, African Americans having to deal with that other races don't, I just say to that is just continue to have your home be of quality. Focus on the property. Don't focus on the appraiser. And then, like I said, if anything was to happen, as long as it's not FHA, we can kind of get another opinion on it, like those people did. And then, tell me the other question again.
So, like in your experience, right, with the pandemic the last couple of years, right, we've seen a lot of people buy more homes, things like that. Have you seen an increase in like an African American buyer?
Oh yes, minorities. Period.
Nice.
Hispanics are actually going to be the number one home buyers over the next 10 years, technically.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting to learn Spanish.
There you go.
I want to
do
it bilingual. I want to help everybody.
Hey.
Which I already do, but I've had some clients recently. It's like, we need to teach you Spanish. I was like, girl, you know what? Say less. Always be willing to grow your skill set. But I will say African Americans, yes, we definitely stepped up in the last 2 years. We've seen a lot of in buying luxury, buying upper middle class properties. So I think it's changing the generation of kids who are growing up, and they're going to have access and information that a lot of us didn't have and our parents didn't have growing up in this, and regarding learning about real estate and the power of real estate. So we've seen a huge percentage of African Americans, especially in Atlanta, because we had a lot of people migrate here over the last 2 years. So not 2 years, but a couple of years before that. But yeah, I think that's why our median home value has went from like $300 to $395 in the last 2 years. It's crazy. Yeah. So Georgia people used to come here because they said the cost of living, y'all can still come, but it ain't that cheap. It's still cheaper than California and Chicago and New York. But it's definitely not as cheap as it was a couple of years ago. So I would say we've seen that. I just tell people that the biggest thing, though, that when you get into home ownership, if you want to keep your equity and you want to grow it, is maintain your property. Because that's where we see the difference when people are coming to sell their home. And they're like, my neighbor got $50,000 more. Well, your neighbor had their gutters cleaned. They had new HVAC system. They had new water heater. So maintain your property is the best way to hold the value of your home.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, it's. I used to tell my friends all the time, like there's a difference between buying your house and keeping your house.
Yeah, that's true.
And before when people would come to me and ask me like, hey, I'm getting ready to buy a house or whatever, and I would walk through their finances with them, stuff like that. they would come back to me, it's like, man, you asking me all these questions or whatever, but they're not asking for this. I was like, yeah, because their job is to get you in the house, and that's fine. I'm trying to make sure you keep the house, right? There's all these things you got to look at. Like, it's a lot happens after that transaction that first year, right? That you want to make sure that you're looking at that, because the maintenance is now you, and a lot of people are used to renting.
Yeah.
So you used to just pick up the phone and going, hey, the toilet ain't working.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody to call, bro.
Yeah.
You better hold that phone calling yourself, because now it's up to you to fix it, right? So if something happens with the HVAC system, or I had some friends that would, an older house had a septic tank system, was like, you need to learn about that. I was like, now I can't tell you nothing about it, but you need to learn about that, because it's going to be on you to fix it. Like, those are the things that we have to make sure that, again, buying a house versus keeping a house. So
yes, and that's why I suggest. That's why I suggest that people always get a home warranty when they're first time home buyer, because you do need somebody to call. You want to make sure that you can have somebody to come out and to help you, because you don't know what to do. Sometimes I always get first time home buyers calling me, well, something broke. Did you get the home warranty I suggested? Oh no, I do have a vendor you can call. So well, this is why I didn't want to buy a house. No, this is not why you didn't want to buy a house. You're just nervous. You don't know what it's going to cost. But that's part of home ownership, and that's part of being an adult. That's part of growing up, and being responsible. So you just have to take care of your property. It's a learning curve. It is. It's definitely a learning curve, but that should not eliminate you from actually trying to become a homeowner, because in the long run, I have a buyer right now. They bought the house 2019. They are selling it. They didn't do anything to it. They got $100,000 worth of equity. What they're going to do with that? They're going to spend that on the next house, get up in a higher price point and a better home, a newer home, and then they're going to still have funds to be able to utilize or invest in for their future. So like, that's what I teach my clients, like, hey, or use that first house as an investment property. Let's get it rented out, and then you can still use just your income, and that's not going to be held against you when you try to buy your next home. So just educating people is a passion of mine. I used to say I wanted to be a teacher, but they don't make me. But I love sharing knowledge. I love empowering people to create opportunities for themselves versus waiting on somebody to give them an opportunity. So once I really learned about the power of real estate and what it could give people, I'm super passionate about just sharing that with others. You make your decision, but you can't say, I didn't tell you, because if I knew it, I told you.
So we're going to wrap up with everybody's favorite section of the podcast. Longtime listeners know this section, we call it the last sip. We don't have a cocktail right now, but y'all get it. So the final question I always ask all of my guests is, and you hinted at it earlier, so what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I love that question. What do I want my legacy to be? I want it to be one of educating and empowering others and encouraging others to believe in themselves and to go after whatever they want. And so I want to be able to invest in others. I want to be able to, like I said, empower others to do those things. And I think by building up my own real estate company, one being a Black woman, a Black mom owned real estate company, I'm going to inspire. I'm going to be able to give back into my community. I'm going to be able to be who I needed when I was younger, when I wanted to have ambition, and I don't know if it's possible. I'm gonna be a person that can show other young women, young moms, it's possible, because I'm possible. And so it's not impossible for them because they see me. So that's something that's very meaningful to me. And ultimately, I want to create an inheritance for a generation. That's what I want my legacy to be. That my kids are not starting, and my grandkids are not starting at surviving. They're starting at thriving. Right. So you will have your burdens in life, but knowing where you're going to live, how you're going to have a roof over your head, how you're going to eat, that will not be one. You won't struggle in that way. Everybody going to have their own personal struggles, but that is something that's important to me. Everyone should have a home. That's like a deep-rooted passion of mine. Like, nobody should be homeless. Everybody should have a home. Every children should have a warm bed to come home to. And so I want to create a legacy of letting people know that that is possible for them and their family, no matter where they are in their financial situations. It is possible. You have to start. and you have to make a decision that that's what you want for yourself. And like I said, creating a legacy of just empowering, encouraging, and educating others on the possibilities that's out there for them. Because really, once you start accomplishing goal after goal, and you get a little bit of success, and you get a little bit more, then you realize this shit is okay. Everything I'm doing is possible.
Right.
You live a life. If you live a life of struggle or surviving, you really just focus on surviving. It's not until you kind of get your head above water where you're like, oh my gosh, like if that I could do that, I could do this. And it opens your mind of possibility. And so really, I want to show people what's possible. I want them to know you can have that. You can have that. Your kids can have that. And you don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to be a martyr to your family, you can have a good life, and you don't have to die at trying to get it.
Right.
Work smarter. Use your tools that's within your life to build the life that you want. So again, just creating a life that my children can eat off of and my grandchildren can, and just being a person that people know they can go to for help. I want to be that person that if you need something, I can support you, but not only through monetary value, but through educating you, because then you'll be back. So I want to make sure when you come, we build you to be able to start to fish yourself. You'll come back because you only come once, and you can come back multiple times. That's a long answer, but a legacy where I create an inheritance of, I think, knowledge and wealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should be a long answer.
I hope so. Yeah.
It should be. And everybody's, I've 3 seasons of this, right? It's always interesting hearing everybody's, answers and where they come from. And I tell people, it's like, it always should be personal. It always should be something that moves you, right? And it's why I asked the question, because, I think you should think about these things, right? A lot of people think it was like, I don't want to think about that. I'm still here. It's like, it's not about that perspective. Is just about making sure that every day, like the actions that you're doing, do they matter? They're going towards something, right? Because everybody kind of needs that focus, that drive. Because when you have that, I think we've seen it, right? The last 2 years, when what's called the Great Resignation, I think it's just people are just waking up and just realizing it's like, look, I'm taking these steps, but are they taking me anywhere, right? Like these steps aren't really going to where I want to go. Like where do I want to go? So,
I think they want to know, where do I want to go to?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, especially before pandemic, I think people were just like existing.
Yeah.
And so when they realized, because we all know we're going to die, but like we don't really think we're going to die.
Right.
Or it's way far off. But when the pandemic came, I think people were like, oh, like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to be with you.
Right.
I don't want to, people like, they woke the hell up and was like, I want to have a real life. What if I die? I could really fucking die. Like,
right.
I want to get, can we curse? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to create a life that I love, not one that I'm sleeping through, because any moment it could be over.
Right.
And I did not even try to get what I wanted out of life. So I think that's what we saw. That's why we saw such an influx of people moving, migrating. Their way of living was not effective for them. Yeah. Spouses weren't effective for them, just everything. So careers. So I think that if nothing else, I feel like the pandemic showed us the time is now. This is not a dress rehearsal.
Right. Whatever
you want in this life, you need to get to work at getting at it. Because any moment, your number can be called. And I want, when my number is called, that my family is secure, they're safe, and they set up for a future of success. So that's what I'm working towards.
There you go. All right. Well, with that, we'll call it a show.
Okay.
We'll call it a wrap. Appreciate you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
You guys know what it is. To the next cocktail, to the next conversation. You guys stay safe.